All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Ed Smith. I'm the regional manager for Oregon, California, and South Dakota. I am also a man in long-term recovery. For me, what that means is I have not had a drink or a drug since October 2nd, 2003. So just a couple of reminders. Please keep your masks, below your chin, above your nose. Hope everybody's having a good time and being safe. And you are here, in case you're wondering, for Engaging Recovery. So if you're looking for something else, now's the time. So I have the pleasure of moderating this panel and working with four very distinguished people that I hold high regard for. So this is Engaging Recovery. The recovery community covers a vast cross-section of America, from recovering individuals, family members, employers, 12-step groups, EAP programs, and other groups focused on addiction recovery. Oxford House residents engage with these groups to help mobilize the community to support recovery. In recent years, the recovery community has become very active in establishing, promoting, and participating in activities that raise community awareness. Such activities include involvement in marches for recovery and related events, particularly during September, which has become known as Recovery Month. The panelists will discuss these activities and also talk about what changed during the pandemic and how well did it work. Were there lessons to be learned? Oxford House residents and alumni also use this involvement to enlist support from the recovery community for the Oxford House community. They also find folks in the recovery community who can be helpful in getting furnishings for new Oxford houses and introducing residents of new Oxford houses to their neighbors. All of this helps to make Oxford houses and their residents part of the local neighborhood and community. So our first speaker is Lindsey Green. Lindsey Green has spent over 7 years in the behavioral landscape, helping treatment centers expand their scope to serve more and more people in the face of worsening addiction crisis. Throughout her tenure in the field, she helped open multiple sober living houses all across the country and served extensively in the nonprofit addiction care sectors across the U.S. She also conducted training for addiction care professionals and peers and helped behavioral health organizations cultivate a fun, fulfilling, and nurturing atmosphere for both clients and staff. This allowed her to develop lasting relationships with treatment professionals across the country, helping clinicians, clients, and staff stay invested in the treatment process. She has been involved in volunteering with Oxford House and is a former outreach worker, and she was actually one of mine for a short time. So I'd like to introduce to you Lindsey Green.
Good morning. Good morning. It's early, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, caffeine is barely working, but we're gonna have fun anyway, because we're engaging, right? So my name is Lindsey Green. Let me see if we can go to this slide. Okay, so I'm the Senior Director of Outreach at Recovery Unplugged, which is a music-based treatment center, and as Ed said, former alumni and outreach worker for Oxford. So I'm coming from probably more of an outreach worker standpoint with this presentation, but that's Oxford House is always in my heart, so that's where it'll be. So partnering, actually, you know what, first, let's do this. Everybody, if you were in the last panel that I spoke, you're gonna do it over and it'll be just as good as last time. So everybody close their eyes, and I know you're going to because everybody's in recovery and they're honest and have integrity. So close your eyes and think about the day, like a couple days before you moved into your Oxford house, and like how you felt, if that was like anxiety or excitement, or you were nervous, or you were scared of like what it was gonna be, right? So be in that moment of fear, anticipation, whatever you felt. Can anybody remember that? Raise your hand if you can remember that. Okay, thank you. And raise your hand if you can remember the feelings of that day you moved in. And like after you got there, and there were some people, introducing themselves, right? And you're having to ask maybe like, hey, can I go get a glass of water? Where are the cups? Like you weren't actually living there yet, right? There's a little bit of fear, hesitation. Raise your hand if you have ever been asked or asked someone like, do you have the sheets you need? Do you have a pillow? Do you have toothpaste? Do you have everything you need? That's awesome. Because that's a scary thing, moving into an Oxford house when you know nothing about it, right? Okay, open your eyes. Did you go through any emotions of like gratitude or like be like reliving those moments? Raise your hand. And I have been told and read that you can't be in a state of gratitude and any other state simultaneously. So if you're grateful, you're not hateful, right? So like you're in that gratitude. And I think that that's the place that if we engage anybody, like our housemate or the recovery community at large, when we come from a true state of gratitude and passion and being so thankful that we are living this life today that none of us were guaranteed, and I wouldn't be standing on this stage today without Oxford House for sure. So that's something that I wanted to start with because I am truly grateful for Oxford House. So in saying that, partnering with the recovery community. So in San Antonio, that's where I currently live. We've had drag shows, like we've done lots of fun things. I know that people are even doing like virtual drag shows where people can tip money to like the Cash App or the Venmo. People have, and then the clubhouse that they actually did that at, they split the profits. And there's also, whenever you're actually, I'll get to that in a minute. When you're partnering with these people, you want to play to your strengths. So you want to find the people. There might be someone that's a talker. There might be someone that talks too much. Like maybe have that. Like they may be able to help organize. Stacy raised her hand. Like they might be able to write out the agenda. There's somebody that's good at typing. Like finding those people that are grateful and willing to go get involved, and then not giving them an assignment that like is not their forte, right? Because they're just going to struggle in that, but like playing to their strengths and then maybe helping them develop those skills over time is what I found is kind of a best practice. Asking for money. Who loves asking for money? So it's not as many people, right? Because some people find that really uncomfortable. So the people who just raise their hand, you make them do it. But when asking, there are people who have gone before you that like you don't have to reinvent the wheel, that have created like this donation letter that you can just ask for, and then you can change the wording for your community. And there are lots of companies that have the ability to write off a certain amount for nonprofits, and that's in the letter as well. So if that's something you need, you can reach out to your local outreach worker or alumni, like someone that has that letter that can send to you. And like Pepsi, like I know that we've asked that, like we've sent them a letter. They were able to give like a certain amount of Pepsi, like for events or bottled water, I think also. So even if you get those things, then you're not having to spend money on those, or your local grocery store or wherever that you can. It doesn't hurt to ask. Like if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? Yeah. That's always been my philosophy. And always, like just a little tip, asking at the beginning of the year is really helpful. Like if you guys were getting the letter together now, because most companies, not all, but most, like create a budget at the beginning of the year of like what they have to spend and what they're going to spend it on. So if they've already allocated that money, then it would be less likely that you would be able to receive it. But I would still try like whatever month it is, but that's just a little bit of best practice. Have any of you guys been able to do like COVID-friendly events? Like trainings on Zoom or Zoom scavenger hunt or a Zoom like a variety show kind of where people can like perform whatever and like get a prize. Those are some things. We also have a drive-in movie theater near us, and there's been some nonprofits who rented out the theater and then they were able to charge, and like that way everybody's safe in their car. But you're still by each other. You can still like wave. You know you're watching a movie with your people. So those are some suggestions for that, as well as always reaching out to your local treatment centers, psych hospital, wherever your people are, and doing Zoom H&Is. I know that we do that at the treatment center I work at, and people are really grateful to see that interaction. And when you do that H&I, bringing a diverse group of people if you can, obviously whoever is willing and able to do it that day is great, but you know how we think. Like, I'll speak for myself, how I think. Like, if I see 30-year-old men and there's like 7 of them, then I'm like, oh, that's all Oxford House is. Like, my mind automatically, like, even though you said co-ed, I'm like, those are men's houses. I can't live there. So bringing a diverse group of people so they know Oxford House is for all ages. It's for everyone, as diverse as we possibly can. And then also, if you are able to dispel any myths they have, like, how many of you thought that it was going to be like prison-ish Oxford House, or you were going to have to like sign in and out every day, like you were going to have to, like, you had these preconceived notions, right? So being able to say to them at the beginning of you talking, like, I thought it was going to be a prison. I thought I was going to have to sign out and sign in, and somebody was going to boss me around and tell me what to do, because that's what it's been like, or whatever you want to say. But it's actually not. Like, we hold each other accountable, but that's an important part of recovery. It's actually a fellowship and friendships that I never thought I had, because I've never really built relationships with women that much, right? If they would have had like a co-ed house, I would have been way more down for that. Like, this was my last, I called this number, like, only because I lost a deal with my higher power. I'm like, if there's one in this spot, I'll go. If not, I'm not gonna. And there was. And the phone was answered for me, which is the most important part, answering the phone. So we get help from the community, but we can also be of service to the community, right? Even during these times, whether it was like answering calls at a suicide line, like whatever is your passion to do, there are still ways we can do it through and be safe and not put yourself, whatever you're comfortable with, your comfortable level. Holding service positions at such things like a recovery rally, like being on the committee, like getting involved, and you can get other people in your house involved. Whenever you're speaking and you look out in a crowd and you see the people shaking their head, go get those people, because they're the ones that are engaged, and they're most likely the ones that are going to go with you and rally with you. And if all else fails, bribe people with coffee, get them in your car. Like, whenever like things are safer again and you can get in cars, like, food and coffee go a long way with us, right? Or just caffeine in general. Like, I got some energy drinks in the car, let's go. So that is like just being of service, because honestly, you might be the only image of Oxford House someone ever sees. And if they catch you on a bad day, they're like, that's what Oxford House is. But it's not, right? We know that, but they don't. So we want to be like a walking role model, like of what Oxford House, and I know everybody has like bad day, but when we're interacting with that person, we want to remember that it might be their life if they choose not to call an Oxford House because we had an attitude. So building relationships is also really important. And honestly, when you come from a place of sincerity and gratitude, and you follow up, like how many of you like woke up before you got sober, right? And you decided that you wanted like drugs or alcohol that day. Did you make it happen? Every time, right? So we obviously have the ability to persevere and make things happen and get what we want. And now we get to use it for the power of good. So perseverance, if you get somebody on the phone and like, that's not who you need to talk to, would you be like, oh, well, I tried. No, if you really wanted that thing for yourself, for your house, for your Oxford House community, you would get the right person. Whether you need to say, hey, I'm so sorry, I've called a bunch of times and I really need your help. Like whatever you feel like, we have that intuition, like that other person is gonna work best on them. Even sometimes telling a little bit of your story so that they might have an uncle that has lost his battle with alcohol. You never know who you're gonna talk to. I talk to people all the time that once I start sharing, they're like, my uncle's in recovery, my aunt is this, my mom, all of those things. So they're more likely to help you when they have a personal investment. And lastly, I just have this written down here, but answer your phone. Am I good on time?
Yeah.
Okay. Answer your phone, because what happens if you don't answer your phone? Like you can't fill your house, but you can't help others, most importantly. And keep your contacts, like the contact up to date on the vacancy website, which is made like super easy to do now. And make sure that you're also checking this thing that some of you might not know what it is. It's like an answering machine, and sometimes it beeps red. I know that that's like super old school, but if you have one, if it's beeping red, you might press play. But make sure when we're answering the phone, you just remember if people are in treatment centers, if they're in prison, they might not be able to like go online. They might not be able to call back at 5, call next week. How many of you guys do emergency interviews? Awesome. That's great. So I think as long as we all remember what we're here for, like, and keep the door open for the next person instead of getting in and closing the door, then we'll be able to engage our own community first and then the recovery community and do a really great job of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so the next speaker is Stacy Nichols. Stacy moved into Oxford House in New Orleans. Did I say that right? New Orleans, right? In 2014. Stacy has been outreach in West Virginia for 2 years. She is active with the West Virginia Coalition to End Homelessness, the Substance Use Coalition of Marion County, and the Marion County Family Resource Network. Please welcome Stacy Nichols.
Morning. My name is Stacy. I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is that I haven't found it necessary to take a drink or a drug since March 11th of 2019. And she said everything I was gonna say. I'm just kidding. So how many of you, it's your first ever Oxford House World Convention? Wow. This is awesome. So how many of you are kind of here catching on to the fact that we are not just a network of sober living houses? We're a movement. Oxford House is a movement, and one of the things I love the most about Oxford House, I say that a lot. I say that every time I'm about to say a point about Oxford House. Is that when Oxford House in a community is operating at its full potential, just doing what we're supposed to do, we combat that stigma against people in recovery from substance abuse. So just by working the Oxford House model and working programs of recovery, we are changing that attitude in the community about what people in addiction are and what we're capable of and what we can do, because we can run our own house. We don't need to be supervised, right? We can do our own networking, we can answer our own phones, we can do our own interviews, and we can hold ourselves and others accountable. So this is gonna be shocking to you guys. Not everybody knows who we are in the country. I know, right? Not a lot of us do, a lot of people do, but not everyone does. We do have some unestablished areas in the country, and we do have some areas where they kind of know of us, but we're not as predominant in those areas. So what our responsibility and what our duty as Oxford House residents is to make sure that Oxford House has a seat at every table in regard to housing, recovery, resources, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, we are a recovery home, but we need to constantly be pulling in resources so that we can benefit the residents that live in our homes, to provide them every resource that is available to them in their community, that we can provide them with toiletries, continued treatment, any resource that someone would need to be successful in their recovery. So I am active in a lot of coalitions. I do it on my free time, and I also do it as an Oxford House outreach worker. But I started my involvement with those kind of agencies as a resident. So it doesn't have to be the outreach worker in the area that is networking with these agencies. So some of the agencies that I've been successful with, and I know are in multiple regions and areas, the YMCA, the YWCA. In my area, we have the Coalition to End Homelessness. It might have a different name, but most regions have some kind of a coalition or agency that targets homelessness in that area. And most people that are experiencing homelessness also experience substance use disorders and do qualify to live in our houses. The quick response team in my area, these are popping up all over the country, and it's a really amazing thing. And what their job is to respond to overdoses in the community. They show up usually before the paramedics do, and they administer Narcan. But what they do that the paramedics don't do is that they follow up with the house that the overdose took place at. So if an overdose happens in an Oxford house, this quick response team will come, revive that person. They'll follow up with that person and make sure that person gets resources that they need, get them connected to treatment, whatever level of care they need. But what they also do is they come back to our Oxford house and they provide counseling and support for the residents that were there when the overdose occurred. And that is a very valuable resource that we have. So if you have a quick response team or a rapid response team in your area, please get connected with them. They do amazing work. Peer recovery coaches, they're everywhere. About probably 7 years ago, I never even really heard of a peer recovery coach, and they're everywhere. And what's amazing is a lot of the residents that live in our houses across the country are becoming peer recovery coaches. So that's a pretty amazing resource to have. And then we talked about asking for money. So every community has a Rotary Club. Rotary clubs love to give money to agencies that are doing good in the community and providing a resource. If you can reach out to your local Rotary Club and do a presentation on what Oxford House is and what we do for people in recovery, they will give you money. They wrote us a check. And honestly, I want to touch a little bit more on what the Rotary Club in my area did for us. We had a house that's by itself in an area. And of course, the pandemic, we've all struggled. Well, this house got hit really hard during the pandemic. And if it wasn't for this Rotary Club and the members on the board at that Rotary Club, this house would have closed. And this house is still open today, and their bills are paid because this Rotary Club not only wrote us a check from their club, but pulled in other agencies and other people in the area, and they also donated money to this house. And we were able to keep, it's a women and children's home. So we were able to keep that home open. Neighborhood community action agencies. These are agencies, you'll probably see them on Facebook or around, they will go around the community and pick up trash. It's just a group of people that want to make their community a better place. Clarksburg, West Virginia, substance abuse is a very prevalent thing. It's a high homelessness rate. There's a lot of people that stay in camps down by the river and things like that. And there's a team of people that go around and pick up dirty needles, they pick up trash, they clean it up. This is a perfect thing for Oxford House residents to get involved in because it's gonna build your name in the community as people are doing service work in the community. When a chapter of Oxford Houses is doing service work and people see you out there cleaning up the neighborhood, one, we're combating that NIMBY attitude, not in my backyard, right? We've all interacted with those people. But it keeps your name out there and it keeps your beds filled. Because when we're out there cleaning up the community and doing service work, one, we're healing from our own substance use and our own guilt and shame because we're valued, right? We're becoming valuable, we're doing some good. And at the same time, we're showing the community who we are and what we do. And so everyone's affected by substance use. Everyone's got a daughter, a friend, a cousin, an uncle who suffers from this disease. They're gonna send them our way. I've seen these Oxford House people out on the side of the road picking up trash. I think I'm gonna send, that looks like a good place to send someone who needs recovery. Drop-in centers. Drop-in centers are really good to have pamphlets sitting in there because what drop-in centers, they're also usually connected to harm reduction clinics. And the purpose of a harm reduction clinic is to keep someone alive long enough until they're ready to find recovery. So if we have Oxford House pamphlets, contact information for houses, when those people who are interacting with the peer recovery coaches at the drop-in centers, when they're ready for Oxford House, they have the number and they know where to find you. And don't take no for an answer. Okay, don't take no for an answer. If you call some of these agencies and they don't really seem like they want to talk to you, treatment centers, any of them, call them again and again. When I try to partner with an agency and they don't really call me back or answer my phone, they can enjoy hearing my voice on their voicemail 2 times a week. And then if they don't call me back, then it's gonna be 4 times a week. And eventually they just call me back to get me to stop leaving messages, okay? And then I get my foot in the door and I get a presentation. Once I've done that presentation on Oxford House and I kind of show them what we are, that's it. That's all I need to do. I just need to get in and do a presentation. The rest Oxford House does itself. You know, it sells itself. So don't let someone saying no or I'll call you back or not calling you back discourage you. You know. And then one thing I wanted to touch on, so if you do get some donations or some help or services from any of these agencies, please have your house secretary write them a thank you letter on Oxford House letterhead, or you can go buy something pretty to send. And any correspondence that you do with these agencies, please do that with your house email. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
That's really important. Don't take no for an answer. Excuse me. And I learned another trick. I see Marty Walker in the room. He said one time, I don't know, quite a few years ago, they take donuts to the office and, you know, get them in. And I got to tell you, Marty, I never told you this. It works. Suggested it to some staff members throughout the years, and it, you know, they're like, ooh, donuts, you know. And so you just start talking, and you got them trapped. So. All right. My phone doesn't want to cooperate. So the next panelist is Joe Chavez. Man, Joe, I've never had the privilege of introducing you, but here we go. Joe Chavez has been the outreach coordinator for Oxford Houses in Hawaii since February 1993. He was promoted to director of Oxford House in Hawaii in 2019. He was a charter member of the Oxford House World Council from 1999 to 2000. He is the recipient of the 2007 Oxford House Founders Award and represented Hawaii as their state delegate for the 2008 A&E sponsored recovery project in New York City. He currently lives in Honolulu with his 4 cats. He's an avid marathon runner. And let's see, he's run the marathon in Honolulu 12 times and has recently become an avid astronomer. He lived in several Oxford houses from 1992 to 1999. Joe has been sober 1 day at a time since February 28, 1990. Joe.
Thank you very much. My name is Joe, and I'm an addict. I know we're supposed to identify ourselves as people in long-term recovery, but I've been around so long that I feel comfortable telling you. And when I tell you I'm an addict, I'm a recovering alcoholic, you know my whole story. You know, the true story begins when recovery starts, and that's what I like to talk about. How many of you guys live in the best Oxford House in your chapter? Oh, yeah. I love that because I have the privilege of going to each Oxford House in our state, and each one of them tells me how great their house is. And it's like, I love that because, yeah, you need to feel that. You need to feel that camaraderie thing. And then they'll talk about the other house. Oh, that other house, it's terrible. I know. I was just over there. It's awful. But as long as we can, engage and remember to have fun with each other, engaging with the recovery community is about the attraction. And because I'm old school, we do our best work, I find, one-on-one at the recovery meetings. So we go to AA, we go to NA, and it's not the meetings that's really going to transpire. It's the 40 minutes before the meeting And it's, the hour after the meeting where we're having coffee, and there are other people in the fellowship that say, hey, who's that group at that table? Why are they, having fun and engaged? And, oh yeah, they all live together. They're, Oxford House. And people are drawn to that. When we lived in, I used to live at Oxford House, Ivolani, on McCorston Street, which is, it's at the base of Diamond Head. It's about 4 blocks from the Kapiolani Community College and about 6 blocks from Waikiki Beach. It was great. It was fabulous. And everybody wanted to live there. And we would have people coming, and we would host parties and so forth. And there was a big AA meeting every afternoon at 5:30 at Kapiolani Park, close to the beach. And we would go down there. If we had a vacancy, we'd go down there and give out flyers, or the thing that we could that I would encourage everyone here to do, that we had to learn, is answer the phone. And I got a story for you that's funny, that I really, at first, I'm an old guy, 1993, right? There was no cell phone. So the big issue was the phone. And we had to have the rules. Hey, if you're in the house, you can only be on the phone for 3 minutes or 4 minutes, something, or 15 minutes, and then you had to hang up and have someone call back because people are calling all the time. And usually it was like a 30-minute discussion every house meeting about the phone. But then once we got cell phones, it was no longer an issue, but no one's answering the house phone. No one's checking the messages, and people, we're getting beds empty beds. So I'm like on this crusade, answer the phone. So I went to this one house, Oxford House, Dillingham, and I'm outside and I'm calling. And I hear the phone ringing inside, and I know someone's in there, and it's ringing and no one's answering. So I park the car and I go storming in there. And there's a guy washing dishes. The phone is ringing. I said, hey, answer the And he turns around and he gave me the international sign that he's deaf. It's like, it was like, oh my God. His name is Dave. Sorry, Dave. But it was really funny because he kind of laughed and I laughed. I thought, yeah, okay. Just when you're just ready to get all, indignant. And I thought, yeah, I'm an idiot. But we still, when you answer the phone, and I think someone said it, the person on the other side can tell if you're smiling or not. And, we all have those days, but I try to give that, best day forward, because you are the face of Oxford House on that phone. And whoever's calling is going to take you as a representation of a whole, at this point, international community. And so I always try to be pleasant or at least informative when people call. And people, my experience has been that sometimes people don't always respond favorably to those of us in recovery. And perhaps I find they had an ex-husband, ex-wife, a brother-in-law, somebody that was close to them that did them wrong. And they, for whatever reason, they still have that resentment. And, I try to open properties. I look at properties. I've been escorted off the property after I disclosed who I was, with what organization. So people don't always respond favorably, but we always give full disclosure. And so while engaging in the community, I always, try to be as honest and forthcoming and try to cover all the bases about what Oxford House is, and more importantly, what it isn't. And yeah, we're not going to have you, sign out. We're not going to micromanage your life. We're all adults, and we're hoping that you have come to us with the intent of remaining sober. And we're going to give you a nice environment to thrive in, should you choose. And we'll give you enough rope to, if you don't. And I think I heard also about supporting other agencies. And we try to do our best to support our sister agencies, which is our treatment facilities. And while Hawaii, we are on the island of Oahu only at this time. And it can be rather provincial, I think, where it's a population of about 1.1 million. And so, but it seems everybody knows everybody. And it's really, and especially when you get into the treatment community, it's even smaller. So I may have not met somebody, but I've heard their name, and vice versa. And so yeah, they wouldn't allow me to call 2 times a week. If they didn't want to talk to me, they would let me, stop calling. Okay. So then I send my guy, Nalo. And Nalo has been very effective, with the face-to-face. And so you have to, like, someone said, you work on your strength. Maybe my strength isn't, with this particular agency, so I'll find someone in our chapter, go down there and talk to them. And the best salesmen, the best people, salesperson, I should say, are those that came from that recovery agency to go back and show the work and say, hey, I was here, and remember when I was in detox? Well, here I am today. Look at me. I'm all cleaned up, sober, looking for new people. And they see that, and they want to do it. Same thing with drug court. When Your Honor sees one of his former clients show up, and now they're recruiting new people, that goes a long way. That's probably our best marketing tool, is individuals at the house. And let me see. I think I will close with just remember that we're always representing Oxford House, and it's always about us. It's never about me. I remind our folks in Hawaii that this is not a organization based on personality. It's about principles, and the culture of Oxford House is about we together, we can do this. And if it ever becomes something where, the bossism or I said, then we have lost. So just remember, we're in this together, and have a great day. Thank you.
I apologize. I was on my phone for 1 second because I don't know why I'm nervous introducing Curtis. But he's a great guy. So our next panelist is Curtis Taylor. Curtis has long been a voice for citizens seeking long-term recovery from substance use disorders. He serves as the executive director of the Alcohol Drug Council of North Carolina, where he is committed to making their information and referral hotline parental, and prevention services the best in the country. He is also committed to the elimination of stigma attached to the subject of recovery and is a vocal advocate for all persons faced with challenges that accompany substance use disorders. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you Curtis Taylor.
Good morning. I think y'all can do a little better than that. I said good morning. Good morning. What is it, like 8 o'clock in the morning? Ain't nobody jonesing. Ain't nobody fiending for a hit. I don't know about you, but I didn't even want a cigarette this morning, right? Yeah. How about that for grace and mercy? I was sitting in that chair over there, and all of a sudden I had this tremendous rush of adrenaline. I got super excited. I believe I see an Alabama Crimson Tide A on that man's face mask back there. And I just wanted to jump out of my seat and go run and make a touchdown for Nick Saban. If you don't know, today is the greatest day of the year. Alabama Crimson Tide football begins today. 3:30 Eastern Time. Roll Tide. My name is Curtis Taylor, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means for me is that I have not used alcohol or any other substance since December 23rd, 2002. And one of the things that I want to acknowledge today is that I'm here today in large part because somebody at Oxford House Crosslink in Raleigh, North Carolina answered the daggone phone when I called. That's one of the reasons that I'm alive today, is because somebody who had found Oxford House, found this thing we call recovery prior to me, decided that it was worthwhile to make a sacrifice and answer the phone for the next person. How about that? You know, one of the things about this convention, right? So this is kind of a weird and different convention besides COVID. One of the weirdest things for me is that, see, I've been, Joe been around since 1930. But I first found Oxford House in 1996, right? I was the first North Carolina State Board chair. There was no state board when I got to Oxford House, state association and what have you. There was no such thing as the World Convention. I was at our very first World Convention, and have pretty much been at every single one since, and so on and so forth, right? And so through the years, like, I can walk into a room like this filled, but pretty much know about 3/4 of the room, at least by face. I don't know none of y'all. None of y'all. And it feels weird, right? But it's the same energy. There's male and female, there's black, there's white, there's brown, there's all kind of nationalities. But we all just in here together, loving on each other and trying to help each other stay clean one more day. Not just stay clean, but thrive in our recovery, right? To me, that's incredible. The way society is today, the political, the argumentative nature of our society today, it's heartbreaking. So I'm always happy when I can come into a room with my family. My family. I haven't lived in an Oxford House personally since 2004. I haven't worked for Oxford House since 2017. But my mother passed recently. And let me tell you, the biggest dose of love, the biggest dose of support came from my Oxford House family. Even more so than the agency that I'm the director of today. And that's real. That's who we are. That's who we are. But another thing about these conventions is that if you're sitting in one of these chairs, that means you did everything it took to raise the money or get your name picked out of a hat or wash some cars or whatever y'all did to fundraise to get the money to get on that plane or get on that bus and get your tail all the way across the country to National Harbor. So in a large sense, we're all preaching to the choir. We got a lot of good information to share, but we're in a large sense, we're preaching to the choir. So we need you to make sure you go home and become preachers yourself. Stand up in those chapter meetings and make sure the houses in your chapter are treating that newcomer with respect. Making sure that newcomer has something to eat for dinner, has bus fare, has clean sheets to sleep on. Making sure the houses in our network are everything that they can be. When it comes to engaging the recovery community, it is of the utmost importance. All of us sitting here can remember when we never heard of Oxford House. There was a time when you had never heard those two words uttered. And look at you now. We need not forget that there are millions of people in America, worldwide for that matter, that have never heard of Oxford House. How are they going to hear about it unless you and I share it with them? Joe's right. We're not super salesmen. The model sells itself. The best way to market Oxford House is to bring somebody to an actual Oxford House and give them a tour. And have maybe 2 or 3 of those residents share just a little bit of their story on how they got there and what that house means to them. You do that, checkbooks open up. The model sells and speaks for itself. Before I found recovery, I was homeless. I was derelict. Selling dummies was part of my occupation. That was my main occupation. Y'all know what selling dummies. Don't be looking like that. Am I that old? Did they change the name? They still dummies, ain't they? Okay. I was hopeless. I was unemployable. God almighty. Today, I'm the chair of the North Carolina Substance Use Disorder Federation. I'm actually serving a second term as chair. My first term was about 4.5 years. It's supposed to be 1. Yeah. I've chaired the state's Consumer and Family Advisory Council for multiple terms. I'm executive director of the Alcohol Drug Council of North Carolina, where we operate an information and referral hotline for any North Carolina citizen that is in need of services for substance use disorder. I'm chairman of the board of directors for the Eye to Eye Center for Integrative Health in my state. I sit on the board of directors for the Emerald School of Excellence, the very first recovery high school in the state of North Carolina. I was homeless. I've been to prison. I grew up in the county jail, literally. I was addicted to crack cocaine to the extent that it was the most important thing in my life, hands down. And I did anything and everything that I had to do to get it. What I'm trying to convey to you is that you and I are the exact same. It doesn't matter what your clean date is. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what substances that you experienced. All that matters today is that we're both on a recovery path. Mine might look a little different from yours, and that's okay. If you need a pill, if you need some medicine to stay clean today, I want to make daggone sure you get that pill. If you need to get on the roof of this hotel and holler at the top of your lungs every day, I'm going to hold the ladder for you. It is what it is. None of us are any better than or any less than anybody else. And the quicker we get a grip on that, the further that we can go together. One of the things about, and it's been stated already, right, by the whole panel, that you might be the only Oxford House resident that somebody ever sees. You might be the only representation of recovery that somebody ever sees. And so here's the thing. A lot of folks in our recovery culture belong to self-help groups, 12-step groups, and so on. Some don't. But a large part of that culture is language and the way that we introduce ourselves and things of that nature, right? And when we're alone together, then yeah, whatever, right? We're going to talk amongst ourselves and we're going to use the language that we normally use. But whenever we are out in society, in the public eye, we have to be mindful that language and words are powerful. We have to help make sure that the language and the words that we're using are eliminating stigma, not perpetuating stigma. John Doe in the public, when he hears addict, when he hears abuse, there's an immediate negative connotation, a negative imagery pops up in his mind, his or her mind. And so there's this thing that's running across the nation called recovery messaging training. And so those of you eager to get in where you fit in and engage in the recovery community and the public at large, I encourage you to take a moment and go through that training. When I stand up here and I say, my name's Curtis Taylor and I'm a person in long-term recovery, and then I tell you what that means for me, There's no negative imagery. It's all positive, right? And now I got my toenail in the door, and maybe you'll actually listen to the rest of what I say instead of just judging me off gate. Oh, he ain't nothing. He ain't nothing but a felon. He ain't nothing but, Our society is so quick to throw folks in a box and call them illegal, label us ex-felons, label us this and label us that. We are a movement, and it's time for us to take control of how we define ourselves. We can control the rhetoric, right? Nothing about us without us. There are seats at the table, I guarantee you. I don't care what state you're from. There are seats at the table that are empty. They're waiting for a representative from substance use disorder to come to that table and join that committee, join that coalition, be a part of that prevention effort. I'm a freaking ambassador for the North Carolina ABC Commission. That's the Liquor Commission. Talk It Out campaign for the prevention of underage drinking. I travel all over the state doing PowerPoint presentations at middle schools and churches and wherever, anybody that'll listen, about helping adults talk to kids about the dangers and risks of underage drinking. Only God, right? Only God. There's nothing special about Curtis Taylor. There's everything special about this recovery life that we found. I want to encourage each and every one of you to figure out what your role is. I feel like he didn't just decide to pick you out of the bunch and get you off of that street corner for nothing, just so you can sit there and look pretty and have nice tattoos and cute hair. Or maybe he did. Some of y'all, I don't know. Nah, but really, I feel like he did for us what he's done and continues to do for us what he's doing, so that we can turn around and do for others. There's somebody that needs to hear your story. There's somebody that something you say, they're going to identify with, and they're going to find their recovery path. But if your mouth is shut, if you won't answer the phone, if you ain't got time because your girl calling you, or then that person becomes a statistic. It's real. People are dying. People are even dying in our houses. So, again, engaging the recovery community is so much more than just doing a presentation at a treatment center. That is important, but there are so many more recovery activities, so many other ways for us to grow and spread the message that, how the lady say it yesterday, she said, recovery is not just possible, recovery is the expectation. Recovery is not just possible, recovery is now the expectation. Thank you for your time. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Curtis. So a strong message that I heard from all our presenters today is that it starts with you, right? It starts at the home. Learn to tell your story. Open your mouth. We need to be heard. We've been silent for too long. So we have some time for some questions. So if you guys want to use these two mics, I'll call on you. And so I'm going to start over here.
Hi, my name's Mateo. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I represent Chapter 5, Northern Virginia, Kings Manor House. I think I speak on everybody's behalf. What happened to the 4 cats on the slideshow from Joe? I wanted to start off with a little bit of levity. I'm really inspired. I'm new to Oxford houses. Granted, I've been familiar with them for quite a long time. My father got into recovery back in the late 70s and had to program out through prison. That's where he got sober. And, 43 years later, he's referred me as his son even to the
Excuse
Oxford
me
house.
1 second. Hey, can you guys please keep it down? We're still in the middle of the panel. It's not over yet. Don't leave before the miracle happens. Go ahead.
Right. So I've heard a lot of good things about Oxford houses. I've only been in since about June 29th of this year, and I'm at the point of leaving. I've had a bitter taste to where someone relapsed in my house. I actually work at a 12-step clubhouse as an assistant manager, and so I'm heavily involved. I've got Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation certificates. I'm looking at becoming a peer recovery specialist as well. So my house had a secret meeting to vote for the guy who relapsed to go to a 3-day detox and come back and not tell Chapter. So I ousted him and I whistleblowed at Chapter. The evil triumphs when good people do nothing. I believe that's something from Lincoln. I see a lot of the ideal of what we're supposed to be in the concept, and yet we falter along the ways. So I had 5 houses that I interviewed, and they all wanted me. It's all about filling numbers. Yesterday, somebody heard the house I'm in is worth over $1.5 million. It's got the pool, a couple garages, real good curbside. Some of our Maryland friends wanted to come over to it, and I said, you don't want to go there. Now, how in good faith do I continue to outreach to the recovery network knowing what I know? Now, I guess I can just kind of say that, recovery is bittersweet and that it is an anonymous fellowship because we don't have any poster children. There are the ups and the downs of it, but I'd be remiss if I didn't point out this in this particular panel about things that bother me.
Okay.
As well as I have been offered some jobs at Recovery Unplugged as well. I want to try to refer people to the program, but I have a bitter feeling with it.
So is that your question? How
Yes.
do you
How do you
continue
get past
to-
your own personal negative experience with it?
I would say
to refer
your
people?
personal recovery program, because all you're in control of is you. Like your circle of concern is yourself. So what's done in the dark always comes to light. So not focusing on that because you see the 1,000 people here, over 1,000 people, 1,500 that are here because of an Oxford house.
Sure.
And if you had, and my biggest thing that I said in the panel yesterday is you help someone else have the experience that you'd wish you would have had instead of focusing on, well, that's not what I had. What would you like to have? And how do you make that happen? So that is in your power.
Thank you.
All right, over here on this side.
I'm a recovering addict. My name is Danny. I'm a CPRS, a life skills coordinator in the state of Virginia. I'm from Chapter 6. Mill Mountain is my house. First of all, Oxford House saved my life. Let me say that. Second of all, let me say Narcotics Anonymous gave me a life. Oxford House lets me live that life. I'd like to also say that there's a misconception when people move into Oxford that they're in recovery because they're in Oxford House. I hear people say, when they say I'm a person in long-term recovery, I think it's important to distinguish what recovery is to that person. So thank you, Joe, for identifying as the addict. Identification is everything in this process. Your shoes are fantastic too, by the way. I would just like to know if anyone on the panel would like to tell me what long-term recovery means to them. Like specifically, what is recovery? What are you recovering from? For people that don't know, it's like the insinuation is, oh, I'm in Oxford. You guys have great information. You look great. You're up there. But what are you recovering from? And so that's an important question, specifically you, Joe, because you did identify as an addict, and thank you for doing that.
That's actually a really good question. So when you guys hear us introduce ourselves as people in long-term recovery, it's one of our traditions that we're not associated with any specific 12-step program because we have people here today and people who live in our homes who work AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, Smart Recovery, Refuge Recovery. There's so many new fellowships coming out right now as awareness is being raised. And we're really learning that there's not just one pathway to recovery. Recovery is just as individualized and just as personal as your name, your social security number, you know what I mean? So there's so many ways to recover, and Oxford House supports all of them. So as representatives of Oxford House, when we stand up here, we want to be all inclusive. We don't want to have too many people up here saying that they're in AA or in NA, because we don't want to attach Oxford House that Oxford House only supports this one fellowship. We support them all. So that's why. But I do recover loudly, and I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and my drug of choice is opioids. I am a drug addict in Alcoholics Anonymous. So, and I personally, me as Stacy Nichols, that's how I recover, and that's what recovery looks like for me. But I am a woman in long-term recovery who supports all pathways of recovery for our residents.
All right, down here. Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry, Curtis.
I was just going to add that that's a part of that recovery message and training, in that immediately, like you said it. So what does that mean, right? So when I introduce myself, I'm Curtis Taylor. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is I haven't used alcohol or any other substance since December 23rd, 2002. That's what recovery means for me today. I'm a homeowner today. I'm a father today. I'm not identified by whatever substance I used to be challenged with. That's what recovery means.
All right, right here.
Hi, my name's Alicia Kroll. I'm from Grand Junction, Colorado. So I partner with a RCO in my community called Pier 180. And lately we've been having a really hard time getting participation at our all recovery meetings. We're having events such as dances. And I was just wondering if you guys had any advice on how to get some participation from that recovery community.
Similarly to, like I said earlier, like free food whenever you go and ask for like caffeine, but also if you are able to get prizes, like that donation letter that we have, if you're able to get prizes, the key things that I've learned in Oxford House how to bring people to the table is food, caffeine, and prizes. So, I mean, I don't know if it's maybe because people don't feel safe yet, but there are things like I had discussed, like the Zoom scavenger hunt, where you put up on like when everybody jumps on the Zoom, right? And you encourage them to do that by having raffle prizes. Like whoever wins the scavenger hunt gets a $100 gift card or whatever it is. So you can put the list of things and people run around, get it. Like they might have like a little like nail clippers, like Suave deodorant, like whatever it is, like you have that list of things that's not pre-disclosed, or a variety show like Zoom, like whatever people are comfortable with doing, but you just keep doing it. And eventually the people will come. Like when you first start doing any type of party or meeting, there might only be 3 people, but you don't stop doing that, because eventually those 3 turn into more, and you take pictures of whatever you're doing and put it on Facebook so that people have fear of missing out and they want to be at the next one.
Hello, my name is Joe, addict, alcoholic. I do that as a mechanism because I've been in Oxford House a long time, and it keeps me grounded. I've got an ego the size of this, the ballroom anyway. And it keeps me grounded. It reminds me who I am, what I am. To answer your question, and on our neck of the woods, we have been known to, we didn't get enough people at the last event, so let's have another one next month. And we tend to have too many in a row. And it loses its special feel when it's, one right after the other. But we also, as a means, we make sure that the most effective way for us is to invite the other Oxford houses. And it's like, we don't want to go, but you invite them first. And at least get a couple people to show up from each house, and that kind of gets the ball rolling, so maybe they'll tell a couple friends. Above all else is, for me, it always operates within the Oxford House community. So I always say thank you to the houses that participated, and someone said it, I always send the pretty card. I always send pretty cards thank you as a way to, ingratiate yourself to the people in Oxford House that we serve. And that's how we get people to participate, because now they're, oh yeah, I know Joe. He sent us that card, let's go, and it's, you kind of made a friend, and they'll try to participate just along the lines of that. But on the other side is we don't have too many events right in a row. That's one of the things that killed us. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you go around, and Eric, if you go around and ask your Oxford house, each individual house, take a piece of paper and ask them what they would like to do, what they would like to see as an event that they would enjoy going to. Take in all that information and then base your event around what the majority likes. And I think you'll get more participation that way.
And I just want to add one thing, one other thing to that. We have an event in Oregon and Washington that it's called Oxfest. Over 3,000 people come to that every year. But when that event first started, it was in the backyard of an Oxford house, and there was about 20 people. So it's about consistency. It's about going out there and hustling, and it's about, knowing, just keep going. Just keep going. Over here.
Excuse me. Yeah, I just have a quick question about, so in my chapter, we kind of need to strengthen the reentry and fundraising. And so that's going to require a lot of presentations. What are some of the resources for training on giving a presentation and things like that?
There's a panel here.
Yeah, reentry. Do you want to talk about that, Curtis?
Well, I think he's.
Oh.
I got the impression you meant just presentations in general, right? In the
Yeah.
Oxford House presentation specifically.
Yeah.
I believe, Lindsey, did you say that that's one of the sessions?
Yeah, there's a panel on how to give a presentation for Oxford House.
Oh, but it's right now. Well,
Get that on a recorded, you can watch that video.
That's right.
You can buy that specific, or get your outreach worker to purchase it for the entire, have everybody watch it.
what Lindsey said. But now you can probably one of the things you want to do is connect with your outreach worker in your area and get them involved with maybe holding a training day, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Workshop. Okay. Thank you.
And I think they're going to be available on YouTube eventually. Over here.
Can I say something about presentations though?
Yes.
To answer your question a little bit more, nobody trained me on how to do an Oxford House presentation. My outreach worker called me and asked me to go to the streaming center and do a presentation. She did not tell me what to say, and frankly, when I went to call her back to ask her what to say, she did not answer the phone. So I walked in and I shared, listen, you live in Oxford House, right? You love Oxford House. You've now been to a convention. You are now equipped to do a presentation.
Our stories are powerful. I hear.
I guess I'm Veronica. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I guess my question, I have a lot of ties to the community. Every time I try to go to Peer Spokane or Peer Support, they always ask to do a panel for us. And I was told that we're not supposed to invite other agencies to the chapter meeting. They're like, oh, don't you guys have a meeting you do every month or things like that? And I was.
What is the reason you can't invite them?
I don't know. I was told. So that's what my question is I'm really curious around the boundaries about inviting other agencies to a chapter meeting or things like that.
I think if it's a resource for the people that live in the houses, absolutely, why not? It's when they're starting to try and sell something, those kind of things. We don't want that, but just talk to your, maybe get some information about what it is and talk to your state association and, have the resources come. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. All right, over here.
Yeah, I'm a little an addict. I'm from New Jersey, and listen, I came in Oxford House with an expectation, right? Like they took a guy out of prison who was homeless, living on the streets, couldn't stop shooting dope for a minute, took me in an Oxford House, right, and showed me how to live a life. And like you said, the recovery part. My question is this: I'm outreach from New Jersey. I'm certified peer recovery specialist. I'm a certified recovery coach. I have a CADC. So, but Oxford is more important in my life, right? With my recovery comes first. I'm kind of bumping heads because, like, listen, like somebody said before, the recovery part of recovery is change, right? And I got houses, man, and it's being treated like a rooming house or a trap house. Like people are just, because it's cheap rent and living in there. And, you know, and I know there's a million areas of recovery, but one of them ain't laying in your room playing video games, man. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? And my hands are tied, I'm told, that I can't even, you know what I'm saying? And some houses are calling me up and saying, well, we want to impose a 3 meeting a week on our residents. And I'm like, you know, I can't say yes or no to that. Your house has to have a vote. But in my experience, I've watched people who hid in Oxford houses for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and walk out, not to have a support system, not to have recovery, and use and die within weeks after they got out of an Oxford house. You know, just like when they get off drug court, if they ain't got recovery in their life, they die. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing, like my hands are tied with these people, man.
Yeah, my name is Joe. I'm an addict. I feel you. I understand completely what you're saying. I've done this since '93. And 92, actually, I was a chapter president 1 year. We are outreach workers on behalf of us, our former, and we're not miracle workers. I view it as this, and I was that crusader that, hey, you know, you got to do this and that. No, I am only in control of me. I can give you an example of what I think a better life is, but if you think the way through life is playing video games, that's on you. However, as long as you're sober, you've had a victory today, and I'm not going to judge that. It's like how you live is how you live. As long as you paying your bills, staying sober, and you know, cooperating with your roommates, I'm not here to judge how you live. And so I've had people live in Oxford House 15, 20 years, and then they left. Did they succeed? I don't know. For 20 years they did, while they lived in the house, and that's a pretty good life. But I'm not here to judge you on, you know, how many people have ever, you know, taken that call, hey, so-and-so was living in my house, he's not working a program. I said, whoa, geez, maybe I'll run my program by you and you can evaluate mine. It's like, you know, because that's not our job, you know. As long as they're sober and the house is functioning, you got to step back and you got to let life play out. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear, but that's it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right here.
My name is William. This isn't a question. This is because the lady had talked about the quick response team.
Yes.
And she kind of gave me chills, made my heart pound about it, because that's the reason I'm here today, is because of the Boyd County. And I'm nervous. There's a lot of people in here. So I stay in Grayson, Kentucky, and the quick response team got me into long-term treatment. I'm blessed the day they showed up with the Boyd County sheriffs, and I had 2 active warrants. They didn't take me to jail. They took me to long-term treatment. So I had 8 months clean, and I've been staying in Oxford House. I relapsed. So I was in a 28-day treatment. I got out of the treatment that day, drove to Lexington, got on a bus, and now I'm here. So I'm just very blessed today. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. One more question and we'll wrap it up.
My name is Leaf. I'm actually an outreach worker from the great state of Oregon. So I liked what you said about the head nodders, you know, and we watched a lot of people leave this room, so that's what we got left, are the head nodders, you know what I mean? So that being said, and I know what the answer is for me, but what do you guys do to keep your tank full? Because I mean, like what you were talking about, kicking down doors or getting your foot in the door, I know exactly what you mean by that, but I mean, what do you guys do to keep your tank full So, you know what I mean? Instead of just giving up and walking away, you know what I mean? Like I said, I know the answer for me, but I think it might be something good for these guys to hear.
Yeah, that's a great question. So continuing to like for yourself personally, like self-care is important, and that doesn't always look like bubble baths. Like that looks like writing out a 4-step, a 10-step, like whatever program of recovery that you personally work, you know, and being of service to others and doing things that you don't want to do. Because how often, like when I did exactly what I wanted to do, I got high all the time. When I do things that I don't want to do, I get better results. But I end up, after I do that, then I'm really happy I did. I'm like, oh, this sponsor, like, well, you know, whatever it is, because that's my first instinct is to be selfish. But when I move past that and I do it anyway, I feel good about myself. And that's how you get esteem. It's like a Cat Williams, I won't quote what he said, but that's how you get esteem. It's esteem of yourself, right? So when we do esteemable things, we get more self-esteem. So that's part of it. And then recruiting more people. Fresh blood, when you have fresh energy around you, like we are a vibe in this room right now, right? So like bringing on new people, like, oh, I was just like you. Like I can see in you, you have the ability to inspire others with your story. And when you tell that person that, they believe you because they do. Everyone does. So putting that, like getting your group of people and building that group of people until it's a movement, and it already is, and it's an army, and like you have that in your area. So I think that's what's important, or that's what I've found most helpful.
So yeah, everything she said is right about self-care, but I'm gonna give you some honesty for me. I don't always keep my tank full. I don't. I will run myself till the wheels fall off. But what I have supplemented, and I do practice some self-care. I just do it a little later than when I should, you know, after some suffering and some complaining and, you know, almost quitting my job. But I'm grateful that what I have done successfully is I've surrounded myself with a support network that can identify when I'm there before I can for myself, and I take their suggestions. So when my sponsor tells me I need to do something, I do it. And when my regional manager tells me I need to do so, she's very intuitive with me. She knows me very well. I've surrounded people who love me and support me in my recovery, and I listen to those people. And when they tell me it's time to go sit down, I go sit down. I'm gonna go sit down now.
All right, let's give one more round of applause to our presenters. All right, guys, thanks for handing in, and that'll be it for this panel.